name is Agnes Kane Callum, and I was born and raised in Baltimore. I am number 5 of 12 children. My grandfather was a slave here on Sotterley. While I was attending Morgan State University, I wrote a paper on the acquisition of land by free blacks in St. Mary's County, Maryland. Well, I was working in the post office, I was going to school, and I didn't have sufficient time to research everyone that I found. Now, my mother and father were living, and they were born and raised here in St. Mary's County. And I heard them mention different people's names, and I would stop by my parents' house and say, have you ever heard of this person or that person? They said, oh yeah, we knew them. Well, when I was looking for the Kanes, I found them in the census with different spellings. I think it was at least 7 different spellings. When I found the Kanes, I felt that they had been on Sotterley all their life. But they came to Sotterley in 1848, and I was researching up around the Civil War, up around 1861. Where were the Kanes before Sotterley? Then I found out that before the Briscoes owned the Kanes, the Goffs, a white family named Goffs owned the Kanes. And the Goffs died. The Goff cholera epidemic came through St. Mary's County and killed quite a few people. And this man named James Judson Goff owned the Kanes before Dr. Briscoe. It was the mother, father, and 4 children. But the judge of the orphans court, he purchased the father, Hillary. But Dr. Briscoe and Billingsley had married 2 sisters. And this plantation belonged to the 2 sisters. So after Billingsley purchased Hillary, then Dr. Briscoe, they took the mother and 4 children off the auction block because they didn't bring their assessed value. So Dr. Briscoe bought the mother and the 4 children at an attorney's sale. He paid $600 for Mariah Kane, and for the baby, Frank Kane, he paid $50. He was 4 months old. And Frank Kane got to be the Dr. Briscoe's chauffeur, or coachman, as they call it in that day. And he was very close to Dr. Briscoe. Of course, they would have conversations as they went about making house calls. But Hillary was already here on Saturday. And he was a master plasterer. I don't know where he learned his trade, but he was very good at plastering. And he worked on many houses in St. Mary's County and as far away as Charlotte Hall. This was a self-sufficient plantation. Now, one of them name was Joe. His name was Joseph, they called him Joe. And his job was to go to that school every morning and dust, because they burned wood in the stove, and to dust and start a fire for the children that Dr. Briscoe had here as boarders. Dr. Briscoe had a boarding school here. And Joe Kane said every morning he would go to the schoolhouse, and they would sing a song. They would play music. That's the way they start the day off. And he loved that music so well until he would kneel down on the outside of the window and listen to them play. And that way he learned to play the violin and the guitar, the banjo and the violin. Everyone was seeking freedom. Their challenge was how to be free. Now Frank, who I mentioned that was a doctor's coachman, he was trustworthy because the doctor would send him to Baltimore to pick up a load of Bibles for the church, St. Andrew's Church. And I asked his daughter, why didn't he keep on going? He was in Baltimore, maybe go to Philadelphia or one of the Underground Railroad states. She said because he didn't want to leave his family. He wouldn't think of leaving his family. They did a lot of ingenuity. For example, at hog killing time, they would take an oyster shell and scrape the hog skin to get the bristles. Then they would get some mud from the creek and mix it in with this bristles, and they would chink all the holes. The holes that air would come in during the winter and what have you. And my father said that mud would get hard as cement. But eventually it would fall out and then you had to put more in. And they hardly wore any shoes. And I asked him why. He said because his father, not his father, his grandfather, used to make the shoes out of some branches from the trees and twigs and what have you. I said, well, what about them sleeping? Where did they sleep, all them people? He said the boys slept upstairs in the loft, and all the children slept upstairs, but the boys slept in the gable end of the slave cabin, and the girls slept in the other end. The mother and father slept downstairs, but there was only one room next to the fireplace. I think they deserve to be remembered and all accolades bestowed on them that is possible, because those people who were slaves, they survived a system that was real cruel. For example, no shoes during the winter. A shirt at Christmas time. They had to be strong physically because, as I told you, a lot of my people, and I'm sure other slaves, died of consumption. Some of them died of measles. Measles was another hazardous disease. And they were strong enough physically to overcome this and then survive within the system. They knew when to say certain things, what to say, because in some parts of Maryland, people were being lynched. And my people survived the system because they knew when to act and when not to act. This was a plantation with slaves, overseer, everything that went along with slavery happened here. These people slept on the floor with corn shucks and wheat chaff as a mattress. Then they get up in the morning and they go up on the hill to this mansion where they have lace on the pillowcases and linen sheets. The slaves were not stupid. They knew that they were slaves and they were under or governed by certain rules and regulations. They knew. They knew that they were being watched. And maybe someday they hope to be in a situation like the people up on the hill. Who knows what went on in their minds? And since they couldn't read or write, it was against the law for blacks to learn to read or write. They didn't leave a record. The few things that my parents told me, I think they were very brave, because they would sit around the fireplace at night before they go to bed, and they would tell their children what happened to them in their lifetime. Now, if their child didn't survive to tell me or the generation after that, then all that's lost. So I still think the survival was most important. And the continuity of this whole place is important. Because how are you going to tell school children? As it is, you can tell the school children in the classroom. But to bring them here and show them, that is tremendous. I think this really should be preserved, and all the modern equipment that will help to make it understandable to the children, so they will have some faith in the plantation. And my people that are living today, they are proud. They are proud of our ancestors. And of course, the things that they did. Now, I'm lucky to be connected to Sotterley.